and proceed down to the fire exit at the courtyard. Once it is safe to return, councillors will receive a text message. Officers will also advise when it is safe to return to the meeting. We are recording this meeting this evening. The webcast will be transmitted live on the Council's YouTube channel and will also be available on the Council's website. Generally, the public seating area are not filmed. However, by entering St George's Suite and using the public seating area, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and training purposes. Before we begin this meeting, I would like to remind members to engage respectfully with one another and address your speeches to me as Mayor. I will now move on to the business of tonight's agenda. Item number 1, apologies for absence. We have apologies from Councillor Aldridge. Are there any other apologies? I see no hands raised. Thank you. Item number 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest to be made by members? I will take en bloc the Essex County Council councillors' declarations of interest. Councillor Ansell.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to declare an interest in item 4A on the agenda as this item relates to my disclosable pecuniary interest as a director of a business that operates in the planning industry, so I will withdraw from the meeting for the duration of that item and not take part in the vote. Thank you.
And that is for the extraordinary council meeting, not the full council meeting? Yeah, okay, thank you. Just double checking. Right, okay, thank you. Moving on to announcements. Any announcements from the Deputy Mayor? Leader of the Council? Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I wanted to update members on local government reorganisation and where we are at present. I committed to doing this at the previous meeting, so I want to follow through with that. Members will be aware that the government has now informed leaders and chief executives of its intention to publish its Minded To decision this side of the pre-election period. That means that within the next week we should finally know whether Basildon will sit within a 3, 4 or 5 unitary model. Following that, the structural change order, the SCO, will be laid before Parliament in June. That means, if my maths is right, the government is giving itself around 3 months to conduct at least one U-turn on whatever decision it announces next week. What it does mean, in practical terms, is that from the beginning of the new municipal year, this council, alongside others, will begin forming joint committees with those authorities with whom we are to create a new unitary council with. As a consequence of that, leaders across South Essex have confirmed our intention to formally cease the South Essex Council's joint committee and to reallocate any dormant funds back to constituent councils. Mr Mayor, the South Essex Council's network has been a worthwhile and important body. I was proud to set it up alongside Councillor Louise McKinley back in 2017, and it has played a key role in bringing partners together across our part of Essex. But as we move into the reality of local government reorganisation and formal joint committees, the truth is that it will become a redundant body, and it is right that we recognise that and move forward. As the government's Minded To decision is publicised, I will ensure that it is shared with all 42 members of the council without delay. Mr Mayor, turning to something that I know is concerning many of our residents, particularly our elderly residents at this moment in time. I firmly believe that Basildon residents should not have to pay more money because of global instability, nor should they bear the cost of decisions taken far beyond our shores. Put it another way, Basildon pensioners should not pay more money for Donald Trump's Iran war. At a time when some political parties, like Reform and the Conservatives, appear all too ready to advocate for British involvement in yet another foreign war, our focus locally must remain on protecting our residents from those consequences. We are already seeing the impact of this in rising oil prices, and we all know that that will mean higher energy bills, higher costs for families, and more pressure on those who can least afford it. Our residents cannot wait 3 years for a solution. That is why tonight I can announce that I have asked our Section 151 officer to work with me to establish criteria again for the continuation of the Warm Homes Guarantee for winter 2026-2027. This will once again support the poorest pensioners in our borough, building on the scheme we successfully delivered in 2024-2025. And importantly, Mr Mayor, we are exploring whether or not we can use the disbanding of South Essex Council's network, use that dormant funding to pay for this so that it will be at no additional cost to the taxpayer. That is a clear choice that we are making, taking money from a structure that has run its course and putting it directly into the pockets of those who need it most. Mr Mayor, I also want to briefly remind members of Operation New Start, which we launched as part of this year's budget. As part of that work, we will be hosting a Veterans Coffee Morning this coming Tuesday from 9 AM to 11 AM in the Guildhall Room at the Towngate Theatre. All of our veterans are very welcome to attend. It is a small but important way of recognising those who have served our country and ensuring that they remain supported in our community. We will also be hearing from our veterans about ways that they can support with the Cabinet's advisory board that we've initiated. Mr Mayor, as is also customary at the final full council meeting of the municipal year, I want to pay tribute to those councillors who are retiring, many of whom have given years and in some cases decades of service to this borough. And can I first place on record the thanks of this council to Councillor Stuart Allen. 34 years as a Conservative councillor, always very diligent, always hard-working and respectful in the chamber. I think I was 3 when he was elected. Councillor Allen, I wish you all the very best in your post-council life. Councillor Aidan McGurran is also standing down from the council. And I can't tell you what a badge of honour that reaction is for Councillor McGurran. The king of the bins, the lord of the lights, quite possibly the only cabinet member who has achieved more in 2 years than most managed in 20. Mr Mayor, when I was putting the band back together in May 2024, I asked Aidan to come in and fix Councillor Blake's almighty mess. And it did take some persuading, but he has done it, and he has done it superbly. Councillor McGurran will be missed by the Labour group, and can I just say how excited we all are on this side of the chamber for the 8th of May, when he is no longer bound by the Nolan Principles. And Mr Mayor, I want to thank you as well. 24 years of service to the people of Basildon. Basildon through and through. Respected and liked across the chamber by members of all parties. It is fitting that your final weeks as a councillor are spent serving as the mayor, the first citizen of our borough. You will be missed by your residents, your members and officers alike, and I thank you for your service. And to those who may be, shall we say, unexpectedly retiring from the council on May the 7th, can I just say, Kevin, you will be missed. And to Sam, and when I say this, I hope I don't invoke any feelings of deja vu, but as your probation ends, it is a shame that Facebook won't be as real as you might have hoped for. Mr Mayor, if I may, I would like to close this particular part of the meeting at the beginning at the end of the municipal year by thanking our Chief Executive and through him all of the officers of this council. Their hard work, diligence and commitment over the last 12 months has been exceptional, and in particular, because they don't get the recognition that they often deserve, our Democratic Services team who keep this entire operation running, preparing the agendas, chasing officers for reports, managing cabinet members and members' requests, and ensuring that meetings like this can take place smoothly. We wish Emma Murphy all the very best as she moves on to a London Borough in the coming weeks, and we place on record, Mr Mayor, our thanks to all of our outstanding officers for their work this year.
Well, thank you for those kind words. Okay, where was I? So, cabinet members, any announcements? Okay, Councillor McGarren first.
Yeah, I'm delighted to be able to announce, it kind of leads on a little bit from what the leader said, in terms of our wonderful staff, that the recognition of our waste team. We're up for 3 awards. The Awards for Excellence in Recycling and Waste Management 2026, who knew it even existed, but it does. That's for our in-cab technology project and service changes, and have been shortlisted in service changes at a local authority level category. We've also been shortlisted for 2 awards at the Fleet Vision International Awards. Again, who knew? Fleet Team of the Year, working in partnership to deliver frontline public services and meeting the requirements of changing legislation ahead of most local authorities, and most innovative fleet management strategy in terms of electric fleet initiative. I'd like to give my thanks to James Hendry in particular, but the entire waste team have done a wonderful job. It's nice to get recognition. It'd be lovely if we won one of those awards. It'd be even better if we won all 3. But just to be on a short list is great news anyway.
Councillor Power.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There's just a few things that I want to update everybody on. The last few weeks have seen some great success with the Pathways service, continuing to offer and support our residents to gain new skills and employment. We've hosted the South Coast Port Services, and they met with over 50 local people interested in working as a terminal operative roles. 34 of these have been progressed to the assessment centre stage, and I look forward to hearing all about their job offers. And just today, we hosted a social care jobs fair with employers from across Basildon and both South Essex College and ACL offering their training routes. Over 60 people came along to meet the employers today, with a new residential care home opening in Basildon, 3 people were offered an interview on the spot today. Several others have been invited for an interview later on. It's clear to see the support being offered by the Pathways team and the supported services delivering real outcomes. We've tailored and specific careers fairs planned for the rest of the year, and as well as this, we're seeing a rise in the ask of employability services across our schools, which we can deliver thanks to the funding of this administration. Throughout National Careers Week, I joined the Elevate Basildon business team, who delivered an expert session to Year 10 students at Basildon Upper Academy on use of digital skills to support employment. It was great to see this engagement and to support our next generation. So thank you to all of the officers that make this meaningful work happen on the ground and across the borough. Many of you will also be aware that, and seen the update this week for the deal that Basildon Council took over Basildon Town Centre Management. So as of the 1st of April, for the first time in 44 years, this council has a say over the market, the car parks and the public realm across the town centre. So this supports our wider regeneration of the town centre and delivers the upgrades that we need to improve access and safety of our town. And finally, yet again, this side of the chamber, I'm forced to correct lies and misinformation being shared by the opposition. Councillor Andy Barnes, who wants you all to believe that he could be the next leader of this council, instead of doing his job as a councillor and asking the officers for the information, or maybe even discussing with his own group members who attend planning meetings and apparently read the reports, he would know that over 2,000 homes have now been to planning, which are protected for the local people by the Basildon First Charter.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. Point of order, please. 23A, impugning a member.
I didn't hear anything that impugns a member in that speech, so that's denied. Thank you.
Because he did lie. Anyway, that's this administration's record, and it's one we stand by. Quite clearly, they have absolutely nothing to offer. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Emma Callaghan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll focus on SEND, women's safety and pride of place, all linked to tonight's agenda. On SEND, the Parents' Forum has been one of our most important pieces of engagement. Parents spoke honestly about feeling like they are battling the system. And we've followed that up with visits to schools and SENCO discussions, and the motion tonight is about turning that listening into action and starting to rebuild some trust between families and services. On women's safety, our recent survey shows a clear message that most women feel safe during the day, but not at night. So we are building up the Women's Safety Forum, working with partners to turn those experiences into real practical improvements. And on Pride of Place, we're shaping our work around what residents tell us, including young people. This week alone, our teams have had over 200 conversations in the borough. And thank you to pupils at Briscoe, James Hornsby, Northlands and the Upper Academy for taking the time to speak with us and share their ideas. And finally, on performance, we are improving how we track outcomes across partners, because issues like SEND and safety don't sit with one organisation alone. And it's been great to see so many residents getting involved in events across the borough this month. Thank you for showing up and for being part of the conversation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to give a brief update around the work supporting children and our sports performance across the borough over the last few weeks. I'd like to be able to update members on the works being undertaken to the play areas at the paddocks and the Wick Country Park. I've received a few emails, including from potential Conservative Party candidates in the election around the Wick Country Park work. So in the interest of transparency, I think it's right that I make the announcement first of all to the public on the work that is being undertaken at Wick Country Park. The works are going to be resumed starting from next week. Works will take approximately 3 weeks, and I look forward to seeing the play area at Wick Country Park being reopened in mid-April. I'm also looking forward to seeing the investment in Langdon Park in the paddocks area and the new play equipment that is being installed there. That has been particularly in response to local people's concerns around the existing play equipment coming forward to us. And that will also be starting next week and take approximately 3 weeks to be completed. So I'm looking forward to seeing that come to fruition. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank all the organisations that have been involved in the Youth Forum over the last 12 months. What it has enabled us to do is create a more unified, collective and collaborative approach to shaping youth services that have been decimated over the last 15 years and bring around real benefits to young people across this borough. Mr. Mayor, turning our attention to sports success, I would like to take this opportunity to wish Billericay Town Football Club the very best of luck in the Essex Senior Cup final taking place next Tuesday. And I'd also like to wish them all the very best of luck in the race for the playoffs. Billericay Town has also been in the news quite a lot over the last few days, and I'd like to particularly point out the success and the contribution that they've made to developing a Premier League footballer who scored his first goal in the Premier League last weekend, and congratulate all the coaches for the support they've made. Members will also know that I've got a keen interest in cup finals, so I look forward to being able to hopefully celebrate a few more. I'd also like to be able to wish Bowes and Bitsley the very best of luck in their race for the playoffs in the East Midland League North coming up over the coming weeks. Councillor McGurran has quite rightly spoken about the awards that his team are up for. I'd also like to be able to point out that the communities team are up for an award with our area committees. As I updated at scrutiny last night, that the area committees over the last 2 years has been a fantastic success across this borough, engaging all members across all 14 wards across the borough, being able to empower councillors to be able to invest in ideas and opportunities for their residents that they seek to serve. I'd like to thank all members that have engaged constructively within the area committee process that over the last 12 months has seen over £600,000 in investment, over 100 grants being given, and 44 community-led organisations being able to benefit that they wouldn't have done before. But this award is testament to the hard work of Mr Taylor and his team, so I'd like to particularly place on record my thanks to all of our officers for this award and wish them the very best of luck. Mr Mayor, finally, as Basildon celebrates its 77th anniversary, I yesterday met with our cultural organisations across the borough to look at what cultural opportunities we have to be able to look forward to. Basildon has a proud past. It's got an exciting future, and I'm excited to be part of it. We also have a government that at last understands the importance of towns across our country and launched the Towns of Culture initiative. And I'm proud to announce tonight that in the coming days, Basildon will be entering its application for Town of Culture, and something that I hope all 42 members get behind. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. The only other Cabinet members wishing to... Okay. Councillor Smith.
That's better. Always go for that. Some of the items I would like to mention tonight are sort of sub judice, because I have regular meetings with the Borough Commander and it involves operational matters. So if you think of when Pete Hegseth gets asked awkward questions about the US military involvement in Iran, he can't quite answer everything. But they have been constructive conversations. One thing I can publicly talk about is where we've worked, myself and the leader, with the police to have more of a presence in the town centre, which has seen a change in the shift patterns of police officers. The police are using these BPOs for some sort of public order, the courts dish out. So if a shoplifter is caught, that is part of their punishment, that you will not commit shoplifting for the next months or years. And if they are caught shoplifting again, the judges throw the book at them because they're not interested in the shoplifting, because once they've been given the order and they've breached the order, in the words of the police, it is the equivalent of contempt of court. And shoplifters aren't getting a slap of the wrists and they're being sent back to prison. And according to the district commander, Paul Hogben, this borough has seen in our town centre a 13.5% drop in shoplifting, and other police forces have been speaking to our police force based in the borough on how to deal with that. And that's an important part of town centre regeneration, that traders don't have to put everything in a sill, a security tag and things like that, things behind shelves. We want our town centre back as it was, not a handy place for shoplifters to grab stuff to feed illegal habits. So that's a big positive, and we want more of that. But the police seem to have found the remedy, so now they need to keep dishing out these orders at court when they catch shoplifters, so they get custodial sentences. That's an important part of breaking that vicious circle. Early on St Patrick's Day this month, there's only one this month, unless you like a Guinness regularly, we had a trial of our Harris Hawk in the town centre. It was a great success. It doesn't, to counter some concerns some people have, it doesn't kill the pigeons, it doesn't hurt the pigeons, because as the handler told us, if it got the taste of pigeon flesh and catching its own pigeons, it would never return to the handler. So he has plenty of dead chicks that are male ones that are no good for human consumption, and there was a couple of people, even the leader had a go. One of the ladies who works at Boots had a go, put the glove on, dead chick in, went like that, and the hook landed on her hand. But as we walked to the outside of Boots, with the guy holding his Harris Hawk, and it's called Hannah, and apparently the female ones are best because they're twice the size of the males. As we've walked over to Boots, and there's all pigeon food and bird food on the ground, the pigeons took one look, and it was like that Alfred Hitchcock film, The Birds, because every single pigeon got on top of the roof line of Boots, and they just like, I've never seen a pigeon do it, stretching their necks, just at shit. Councillor Blake, through the chair. But it done the job. And after we finished doing what we had to do, and the public had a go, and the public's very supportive, I had to go back into the town to kill some time while I was waiting for Councillor Murphy to pick me up, because I had a flat car battery. And about 90 minutes after we left with that hawk, the pigeons were still on the roof. So starting on the 1st of April onwards, for this next financial year, 3 days a week, the hawk will be in town. This is purely to deter, not to kill, not to maim, not to injure, but it is important we have control. And just to wrap up on this point and shut up, because other people wish to speak, we're not going to do what some councils do, fine little old ladies for putting out bread, that's pernicious. We're not going to do what some other councils do, putting chemicals down to reduce the population. We're using natural way of order, the top predator, the hawk, flies around, the pigeons bolt. And hopefully this will change in behaviour, means we can look at other town centres or housing estates that are plagued by pigeons. And that might seem to go on, but it's about public health, and this is why local authorities were formed, to protect the public health, and we take that issue seriously, as did Councillor McGowan when he fixed the bins. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Brown.
This evening, there's lots of things on the agenda that come to my portfolio, and I've also been asked a couple of questions, so I'm just going to make one basic announcement. This administration are very committed to providing homes, and lots of different types of homes, whether that's affordable, social homes, and also for our first-time buyers. We're all aware of those 10,000 people who are living at home with mum and dad. One of them still lives up with me. So I just want to remind all councillors that you are welcome to come along to our first-time buyers event on Wednesday the 25th. It's in the college, in the town centre this time. Last time we held this event, it was held in the Humankind Cafe on Billericay High Street. It was really popular, but we realised the venue just wasn't big enough. So this time we've moved to the town centre. So from 4 o'clock, we'll be able to, once again, those first-time buyers who are looking for a mortgage, or maybe looking for an insurance deal, or maybe looking for shared ownership, will be able to come along, talk to our developers, talk to local businesses who provide removal advice, who provide mortgages, who provide insurance, who provide financial advice, in order to get those young people, and some of them a little bit older than young, on that ladder. So I'd remind all councillors that you are welcome to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to announcements from the Chair of Planning. Any announcements? Okay, thank you. Councillor Larkin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the chairman of the Borough Planning Committee, I am completely appalled by the behaviour of certain members of the Planning Committee last Wednesday. You know who you are. Officer was accused of corruption without an apology. My legal officer and democratic officer and myself was bullied and abused from the start to the finish. We have had several complaints from the public on the disgraceful behaviour, and as a magistrate for over 25 years, I am appalled at this behaviour. This meeting was too long, but time was wasted, 35 minutes, because one member decided to air his grievances about an issue on the minutes of the previous meeting. This was not the time and place to discuss this on the agenda, playing to the gallery. Members of the public attend to listen to their own agenda items. Why did this councillor want to know why, as chairman, on lobbying, I decided with an item, but not his own member, who also declined on another agenda item? Again, bullying. I'm speaking, thank you. I will exercise zero tolerance at all meetings. I am not shy to remove these individuals in the future. Nearly 40 years serving on this council, we must have respect for other members, whatever politics. A semi-quasi committee turned into a political war zone. Officers have to observe 3 golden rules. If this fits the recommendation and facilities all agree, we have no reason to refuse these applications. One of these facilities, which we find connections are highways controlled by the Tory administration, is a bone of contention. At the previous council meeting, I reported that Basildon had now been removed from the red zone, which means we keep our planning and it is not decided by government, which gave us no choice. Under the previous administration, we ramped up so many refusals on appeals, which turned out to be very expensive to the administration, which eventually would leave us financially in a precarious situation. Basildon is now democratically sound on this, where others very close to us are not. This is brilliant. Thank you, officers, for your hard work, and thank you.
Thank you. Chairman of Licensing, Audit and Risk, Standards and Appointments, Appeals and Committees, or the Executive Director? Right, thank you. That's announcements over and done with. Moving on to item number 4, notice of motion. This is to be moved by Councillor Callaghan. To move the motion, you have up to 10 minutes. And do you have a seconder? Councillor Brown. Thank you. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The anger people feel about infrastructure isn't abstract anymore. It is real, it is daily, and it is justified. The Home Builders Federation's latest report on unspent developer contributions should be a wake-up call for anyone involved in planning, infrastructure, or local government. It lays bare a problem that many residents already feel instinctively, that while development continues at pace, the infrastructure meant to support it simply is not delivered. What the report does is put hard numbers against that reality, and those numbers are deeply concerning. When I first read the report, I genuinely could not believe how bad it was. Not because I didn't know that there were delays, we all see that locally, but because of the sheer scale of it. Across England and Wales, councils are now sitting on around £9 billion in unspent developer contributions. That is money that has already been paid by the developers specifically to fund the infrastructure that communities need. Schools, roads, transport, affordable housing, libraries, healthcare. And when you start to break that figure down, it becomes even more stark. Around £2 billion of that total is earmarked for education alone, enough to deliver more than 100,000 school places. Instead, that funding is sitting idle while parents struggle to find places for their children and while councils debate marginal thresholds and projections. Even more concerning is how long this money has been left untouched. Nearly £3 billion has been sitting unspent for more than 5 years. In many cases, agreements are structured on the basis that funding should be deployed within a reasonable time frame to support these new communities as they grow, but that simply isn't happening. This isn't a short-term delay, it isn't a timing issue caused by complex developments, it is a systemic failure in how infrastructure is being delivered. Every pound of that £9 billion represents a promise that has not been kept. A classroom not built, a road not upgraded, a bus route that never arrived, and when you look at it in those terms, it becomes clear why residents feel the way they do. It isn't just frustrating, it is totally unacceptable. Across Basildon and Essex, residents are watching homes go up at pace while the basics either arrive years late or don't arrive at all. People aren't stupid. They can see what's happening in front of them. They're being told that growth is necessary, but they are not seeing the benefits. And when that happens, trust in the system breaks down. Development in this country is supposed to pay for infrastructure. That is the deal, whether you agree with it or not. Through Section 106 agreements and the Community Infrastructure Levy, the CIL, developers contribute significant sums precisely so communities can grow properly. And I do also, following on from Councillor Larkin's point, want to be clear about something that does often get lost. The planning officers at Basildon Council are outstanding. They work incredibly hard to secure those agreements, often in very difficult negotiations, under pressure and within competing priorities. Since May 2024, when we came into office alone, over £35 million in new developer contributions have been secured for infrastructure. Our planning officers, all of the planning applications that go through each week, including the ones last week until 1 o'clock in the morning, they all come with money for infrastructure. £35 million since May 2024. That is serious money, and it is a serious job of work, and it shows that the system can work, at least at the front end. But securing the money is only half the job, because what residents are rightly asking is this: if the money has been agreed, then where is the infrastructure? And the recent report shows that in Essex County Council, It is sitting on an eye-watering, staggering £169 million of unspent developer contributions. That is the second largest amount held by any council in England. This is not theoretical money, Mr. Mayor. This is funding that is waiting to be triggered. Money that developers have already paid because they have already reached the required stages in their development. So this idea, and we might hear it later, that it can't be spent yet because the development isn't complete, is not true. These developers pay in stages, but when those stages are reached, the money is handed over. And when it's handed over, it should be used. And right now, £169 million has been handed over to the Tories at Essex County Council, and they're refusing to use it.
Shame.
Let's take the School Avenue estate in Leindon. It has been there for nearly 15 years now, and residents are still waiting for something as basic as a morning bus route to the station. That's not a planning delay or a legal complexity. It is a basic failure of Essex County Council to deliver. And when residents raise these issues, they're often met with explanations that are technical, procedural. They may even look slightly reasonable on the surface, but they're talking about funding windows, delivery thresholds, viability assessments. The system has become too bureaucratic and too technocratic. Too bureaucratic because decisions get stuck between different layers. A district council, a county council, the different agencies we were hearing about, each with their own responsibilities, processes and sign-offs. And it has become too technocratic because common sense has been replaced by spreadsheets. We have reached the point where you hear arguments like we are 0.2% of a pupil away from needing a new school, so we can't justify building a new school right now. Think about that. We're facing huge housing targets as a council, thousands of new homes, growing communities, and we're saying we won't build a school. Well, let me rephrase that. The Tories at Essex County Council are saying they won't build a new school because on paper we're just shy of the threshold. That is not strategic planning, it is inertia dressed up as precision. Residents, Mr. Mayor, don't experience their lives in percentages. They experience them in real terms. Overcrowded classrooms, long commutes, missed buses and services that are not keeping up. And they are right to be angry. What they are seeing is a system that is demanding growth but fails to hold itself to the same standard when it comes to delivery. And in Basildon, this is particularly stark. When you combine historic contributions with more recent agreements, there is around £50 million tied to development in Basildon that remains unspent by Essex County Council. That is money for our schools, our roads, our transport, our healthcare, money that developers have already paid, money that should already be making a difference, and it is just sat idle. So, as the motion before you tonight suggests, we have a plan for change. Basildon Borough Council is demanding full transparency. We want to know exactly where our money is that has been collected from developments in Basildon. Where is it sitting and what is it allocated to? We want a full public breakdown from Essex County Council, not summaries or vague assurances, but the detail. Second, we need a clear timetable for the delivery. It is not enough to say infrastructure will come in due course. Residents deserve to know when the schools, when the roads, when the buses, when the affordable housing and libraries will be delivered. Third, we must insist that the money generated in Basildon is spent in Basildon. As we move towards local government reorganisation, there is a real risk that funds could be absorbed or redirected elsewhere if we're not careful, or could even be sent back to the developer. That cannot be allowed to happen. Fourth, we need to change the culture around delivery. If money has been sitting unspent for years, the default position should be to get it out the door and not just waiting for the perfect conditions or theoretical thresholds to be met. And fifth, we should push for stronger local control as part of reorganisation. The authority that approves development should have far greater influence over the infrastructure funding that comes with it. You could say, we need a local plan. And finally, we need political accountability, because this is not just a technical issue, it is a total failure of leadership at Essex County Council. For too long, the Tories there have not delivered the infrastructure our communities need. The accumulation of unspent contributions over years, decades in some cases, has undermined public confidence in the entire planning system. And if people lose faith in that infrastructure, then they will also resist development altogether. And who can blame them, Mr. Mayor? You cannot ask or keep asking communities to accept growth if the benefits never materialise. The Conservatives have run Essex County Council for over 25 years. During that time, the gap between development and infrastructure has widened, not narrowed. That is not good enough. Basildon residents have done their part. They have accepted growth. They have seen their communities change. Developers have done their part too. They have paid the contributions required of them. It is the system, and crucially, those in charge of it, that have failed to deliver, and we cannot carry on like this. So yes, Mr. Mayor, residents are right to be angry. I am angry. My jaw hit the floor reading this report, especially not a week after a planning meeting that ran until 1 o'clock in the morning, when councillors were having bizarre exchanges of an apparent pandemic of 8-year-olds wandering the streets of Noakbridge looking for a school. Nonsense arguments given credence because infrastructure monies are stolen from Basildon and hoarded in Chelmsford. On the 7th of May, Mr. Mayor, the residents of this borough should show these thieving Tories the door.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you. I'm sure all of us, when we hear those numbers, are angry. And the reason why we are all angry is because at the heart of this motion, it is about fairness. What is fair to those who live in this borough? Our residents, we all know, become angry at times about new developments and homes and housing. And we talk about what growth that can bring. We talk about the opportunities. We talk about the way in which we can have improved infrastructure. But sadly, this is not what is happening. We expect that infrastructure, quite rightly. We expect that our developers are going to contribute to the communities that they are building. And as developers build homes, they pay those contributions, and Essex County Council quite happily bank them. But what happens next? What we are seeing is that Essex County Council are not fulfilling their part of the deal. They are not building the schools, the roads, giving the contributions for parks, for green spaces. They're not filling those potholes, are they?
Nope.
They are not doing their part. So what is happening to the millions of pounds that is coming from generating from homes in this borough? It is going to Essex and sitting there. It's creating a nice fat bank account for them, enabling them to gain more interest. But they're not giving that back to Basildon like they should. We estimate around £50 million of that money should have been spent in Basildon and hasn't. At the same time, Essex County Council are choosing not to fix your potholes. They are choosing not to build you schools. They are choosing not to build you roads. They are choosing not to expand healthcare. So for our residents, the question has to be around fairness. When are the Conservatives at Essex County Council going to treat you fairly? When are they going to give Basildon Borough the money that our developers have given for our communities?
Never will.
We are building homes. We are bringing back empty homes back for people to live in. We are working through the local plan to decide with Essex County Council what infrastructure is needed. And Essex are choosing not to give it to us. And so when we think about our Basildon First Charter and those developers who have signed up to provide homes for local people, those developers are also signing up to building your schools, giving you a new GP, giving you a new dentist surgery, fixing your potholes, and again, Essex County Council and the Conservatives who run Essex County Council are making the decision not to give you that infrastructure. And I'll say it again really plainly. This is about fairness. When tens of millions of pounds that are meant for Basildon are sitting unspent, they're not even being spent somewhere else, they are unspent, then we have to ask the question, do the Conservative-run Essex County Council, are they treating this borough fairly? Do they care about you and your family? Do they care you can't get a GP's appointment? Do they care you had another broken wheel on a pothole? Do they care your child can't get into the right school? No, because they are not spending the money that we should have for infrastructure. We know that local government reform is coming, and under that, we will get your money back. This leader will take your money back and spend it on the infrastructure that you and your family deserve. Because ultimately, this administration is about fairness. And let's face it, this just is not fair.
Yeah.
Thank you. The matter is now open for debate. Are there any speakers? Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I start by associating myself with the comments of the leader regarding Councillors McGarren and yourself, Mr. Mayor. Standing for office and serving your residents, whatever political persuasion you are, is never an easy task, and I respect and admire anybody who takes on the challenge. Can I also, on behalf of the Conservative Group, wish Councillor Ferguson good luck in the marathon in April. Again, disregarding political differences, I know that a marathon is a very, very long way, and I admire anybody that takes that challenge on. Before I tell you all why Councillor Callaghan is wrong, I hope you'll indulge me for just a moment, as this does seem the appropriate time to pay tribute to a Basildon political institution who has chosen not to re-stand at the local elections, but after 30 years of service, over 34 wonderful years, and I refer of course to my colleague, Councillor Stuart Allen. Councillor Allen was first elected to this council in 1992 as the country basked in the afterglow of Thatcherism, cradled in the loving arms of Sir John Major. He and his wife Deborah served as the Conservatives' first, and as far as I'm aware, still only councillors for the Freeing ward, until, of course, this year. We're expecting great things from Anne. 96 to 2000 were dark years on this council, as Councillor Allen wasn't with us, but his triumphant return came as councillor for Langdon before he moved to Crouch ward in 2002, finally finishing as member for Castleton and Crouch, winning his last election victory so far in 2024. Councillor Allen isn't a big mouth like me and some others in this chamber. In many ways, he's probably what the public most want and expect from their local politicians. Somebody who does the job quietly, with dignity. He has helped literally hundreds of people over the years. He has been a councillor. He's delivered more leaflets than the Royal Mail and walked more miles than Sir Ralph Fiennes. He will be greatly missed and fondly remembered. Thank you, Councillor Allen. Right, that's quite enough of that. What a letdown this was. When I saw the announcement on Facebook, I thought this was going to be some sort of massive scandal. No one will support the Essex Tories again, they claimed. What could it be? Had Kevin Bentley burnt down an orphanage? Had Louise McKinley been caught spying for North Korea? Thankfully, it was neither of these things. Instead, they've recycled an already discredited claim from last year. Does this administration ever announce anything that is actually new? Now, I'm used to disappointment, Mr Mayor. I'm a West Ham fan, but this really is scraping the bottom of the barrel. The 169 million they refer to is for the county as a whole, not just Basildon. The 50 million figure seems to have been plucked out of the air, simply taking a percentage of that number. There's nothing to support it. And Essex County Council's infrastructure funding statement is clear that every penny of that money has already been allocated to be spent. It isn't sitting around doing nothing. The council hasn't got a single penny in Section 106 agreements that hasn't been allocated to spend. And that compares very favourably to this council's position last year, albeit it has improved this year. It's interesting that they go on about compliance and doing things properly when it comes to planning, but when it comes to Essex County Council, apparently they should just bypass all the rules and splurge the money with no regard as to where it is best to be spent or what the correct process would be. Now, I could, if I really want to, just repeat the speech I made in May 2025, which was the last time they brought this to this council, because basically everything I said still applies. I could talk about the fact that all the infrastructure in the county council is allocated to spent and it's apportioned in the correct way. I could talk about the part in my previous speech when I said that this claim was clearly the act of a desperate administration, flailing around, looking for somebody to blame, trying hard to deflect attention before they are subject to the judgment of an electorate that they tried so hard to avoid. But I don't even need to do all that, because not only are these claims manifestly wrong, but the actual measures used are nonsense as well. They've measured these numbers in absolute terms, and surprise, surprise, Essex County Council, as one of the largest authorities in the country, is near the top. But the measure that's used by anybody credible, and you would have thought they would have known this as they're supposed to be finance experts, they know better than the auditors, the measure that you use is the highest unspent developer contributions per household, not the overall figure. Otherwise, the largest authorities will always appear at the top of the list. So I wonder why they haven't used that measure. Well, let's have a look at it. The actual position. The worst council in the country, with £2,169 unspent developer contribution per household, the London Borough of Tower Hamlets, controlled by Labour councillors so corrupt that they had to throw them out of the party. Quite an achievement. Second place, the London Borough of Wandsworth, Labour controlled. Third place, London Borough of Brent. Does anyone want to take a wild stab in the dark as to who controls the council? It is. Well done. Very well done. They would be lucky to have you, Councillor Schrader. Essex County Council puts more money into Basildon than it takes in council tax. It allocates developer contributions in a sensible way, and it has the appropriate controls in place, which is more than I can say for this authority. There are more gimmicks from this administration, desperately trying to deflect from its own missteps and errors. Do you really think the public will forget that you tried to steal their votes? Do you think... Do you think that they'll look at the shambolic performance of this Labour government and this Labour council and be fooled by rubbish like this? Time and again, you underestimate the people you govern. You think that spin and distraction will be enough to save you in May. Well, I've got news for you, it won't. Pass your silly motion. No one believes a word this administration says anymore. And the local elections in May, this nonsense won't save a single one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McGeorge.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to start off. I can plan and allocate money as much as I want, but until it's actually spent, means nothing. Very good. So, from a health perspective, this is exactly why residents are losing faith in how the system is supposed to work. We approve growth, families move into new homes, which means demand on GP surgeries, community health services and hospitals rise straight away, but the funding meant to help manage that pressure is not arriving. Instead, we have a situation where millions of pounds intended for infrastructure, including health provision, are being held by Essex County Council, while the local communities are left dealing with the consequences of the new growth every day. That means more pressure on frontline services, more frustration for residents, and a growing sense that promises made through the planning system are simply not being honoured. Quite frankly, if developers are paying what they are required to pay, then there is no excuse for Essex County Council failing to get that money where it is so urgently needed. Health infrastructure cannot be treated as something that turns up years later, because by then the pressure is already being felt and local people are the ones paying the price. If contributions are being generated in Basildon, residents rightly expect that money to be spent in Basildon, not left sitting in county accounts while demand keeps rising. The private sector has met its obligations, so the real question here is why has Essex County Council failed for so long to meet its own? It's just not good enough.
Thank you, Councillor McGeorge. Councillor Emma Callaghan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight's meeting has been called because something's gone very wrong. I want to talk tonight about the people on the receiving end of these decisions. The families, the children and communities who are experiencing what happens when a system stops delivering for them. When I first saw the figures, the 169 million sitting unspent, I thought about what that money could have done for our borough. How many SEND school places could we have created? For children who are travelling miles, sometimes hours, to get to school, or worse, sitting at home without the support they need, with their parents forced to homeschool them around demanding work hours or stop working completely. With £169 million, we're talking about the equivalent of 11 to 14 new SEND schools. I thought about social workers, about the children who need support now, not in 6 months' time when county finally gets around to the backlog. That money could fund thousands of social workers who could be helping families when they need it most, right now. I thought about schools built on time, alongside new developments, so when families move into a new home, their child can go to school in their community and not have to travel across the borough because the place wasn't built. I thought about GP surgeries and dental practices, about residents who can't get an appointment and feel like the system simply doesn't work for them anymore. And yes, I thought about roads, because I've had children in our secondary schools tell me they are sick of potholes themselves. And drivers too, who get in their car every morning hoping today isn't the day their suspension goes. And all of it, could have been improved over all these years of decline, because the money was there all along. What do we hear? We hear that infrastructure isn't there. We hear that we can't build homes because services are under pressure. And we hear and read of outrage, concern and fear whenever a council approves a housing development in Essex. I read a comment this week from a resident responding to our plans for a new NHS clinic in the town centre. They said, "This is what happens when a town has to deal with massive migration and no new infrastructure." And I found that deeply sad, not because of the frustration, which is understandable, but because of where that frustration is being directed. People are not blaming the lack of delivery. They're not blaming Essex County Council for sitting on this cash. They're blaming each other. They're blaming local families that need homes. They're blaming local communities that are growing and having children. And that's wrong, because the truth is that the infrastructure money was there all along. This situation, this tension, these arguments between communities, they never needed to happen. What we're seeing is the consequence of a system that has failed the people it's serving. With our outdated two-tier system, we're seeing decisions being made far away from the communities that feel the impact. And tonight we have to call that out. Because in Basildon we have thousands of people on housing waiting lists. We have families in temporary accommodation. We have working people being classed as homeless. And people trapped in a system that isn't delivering enough homes. And every time a new development is proposed, the same argument comes back. We can't support it. The infrastructure isn't there. But how can we say that when at least 50 million linked directly to developments in this borough has not been spent? How can we tell people there isn't enough infrastructure when the funding to provide it is sitting in a bank account linked to Essex County Council? I want residents to picture something. You're on the school run. You're driving from Vange to Billericay or from Leindon to Wickford and you're stuck in traffic. And look at the cars around you, because in one of those cars is a parent with their kids going in the opposite direction. Not because they want to, but because when they moved into their home, the school nearby wasn't built or was already full. So they had to find a place somewhere else. And it's not just inefficient and frustrating, it's ludicrous and it's scandalous to convince a whole borough that we cannot build homes because the infrastructure isn't there, when it could have been all along. So tonight we say, we need our roads fixed, we need our schools built, we need support for families, We need places for our children. We need the money that belongs to our communities to be spent on our communities. And I hope to God that local government reorganisation is protected through the next set of elections, because news just in is that Reform UK policy will be to fight LGR and keep this two-tier system, and Essex cannot afford to go backwards. And to Essex County Council I say, we need our money in Basildon and we want it now.
Thank you. Councillor McGarren.
Thank you very much. I've been on this council on and off since 2012. It only seems like yesterday. Huh? No, I'm not staying. I'm definitely not staying. But I thought I'd seen everything. I thought my capacity to be surprised had long since disappeared. But Councillor Barnes has managed to surprise me tonight. He doesn't think that Essex storing tens of millions of development cash is a scandal. It begs the question what he does think is a scandal, because the bar must be pretty damn high. That's all I'm saying. It's interesting, on social media, he's been very vocal about road closures recently around Billericay. It would be Billericay, obviously, not anywhere else. But yet, he's still cozying up to his social superiors at Essex, who he's clearly terrified of. Probably including his father-in-law, but he's standing down, so you don't need to be too terrified of him for much longer. What I would ask Billericay Conservatives is, why, you know, it's your administration at Essex, why are you not banging down the doors of your colleagues there to get a better deal for Basildon? You're silent. You're utterly mute and silent and inadequate. Why? I will wait for interest to hear the answer to that one. Councillor Barnes has already decided the outcome of the election. I'm not so sure, because what we're hearing from people, and I can be really honest now because I'm not standing again, is, I'll be really honest, and you'll be amazed by this, they're not that thrilled with the government, right? Not 100% thrilled with the government. But what they are saying is, we like what you guys are doing. We can see what's happening in the town centre. It's finally happening. We can see what you're attempting to do. We can, you know, we sorted the bins out. Modesty forbids, but I did. You sorted the bins out. You get into grips with the basics. When the Conservatives were in, it was inertia. They did nothing. They ruled for the sake of ruling and did nothing with that opportunity. And I'll address one of two Reform councillors. Obviously, we only ever hear from one of them. Councillor Sam Genet, who is misleading the public on a monotonously regular basis that somehow, come May the 8th, Reform will be leading this council. Do the maths, Genet. It's not possible. The best you can hope for is to be a lackey for the Billericay Conservatives. Is that the change you're promising? Is that what your people want? Don't think so.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I always take pleasure in going to battle against County Hall because they are not our friends. No. I was the one that coined the phrase Baz exit. Local government reform isn't quite what I'd like. I'd like Basildon to be completely free, but I'd rather work with similar neighbours than live under the muzzle of a bad owner. Now, people like figures, numbers. Now, in my division, ward, prior to my election as the County Council in 2013, the developer of Morello Quarter paid County Council £250,000. That's what Essex Highways wanted. That was their price to put pedestrian crossing in. That would seem a fair price. It's 2 poles, 2 sets of buttons and a set of paint, and maybe some signs warning people there's a set of traffic lights. So when I entered the County Council, Essex Highways came to the Local Highways panel and went, we got our sums wrong from that 1/6 agreement. Can we have another £250,000 but from your road safety budget? So hold on, you Essex Highways, a private company, you get your quote wrong and you want to nick it off us. It's your problem. You gave the quote, you swallow it. So it never happened. So for everybody who lived in Morello Quarter, there's about 440 flats. they have paid £568.18 towards this crossing. But Essex County Council had to return that £250,000 and they generated 37 grand in interest whilst
Kept that
they
up,
held
didn't
that money. So each of my constituents in Morello Quarter have been robbed, thieved, pockets lifted by Essex County Council for £84.09. And it gets better on top of that if you was a newspaper journalist writing this down. When the developers of Trafford House said, they spoke with us and they said, we will fund the traffic lights, we will install the traffic lights. And there's all that problem with road parking outside the station, all the paving slabs broken because the Snowflake Parking Partnership resent doing their job. They'd rather go around Rochford, terrorising White Van Man, putting in new windows for pensioners there. Them lights were never going to be installed. But I spoke to Councillor Brown. We used planning enforcement against Essex County Council,
yes,
and that developer paid for that crossing. But there is an example, and I must pull up through the chair the leader of the opposition, Councillor Barnes, when he says that, intimates that Essex County Council treats us fair and everything else. Approximately 12 years ago, they stole £850,000, £850,000 from the Basildon Local Highways Panel. And guess what that was going to be used for? The Army and Navy flyover. And do you know where the Army and Navy flyover is?
Chelmsford.
Probably in a smelting plant up north, being turned into tins of cokes and baked bean tins. Yet that money was meant for crossings, speed humps, road safety schemes outside of schools and other such things. I'm glad the leader brought this up because it emphasises again, and we must fight this battle, because developers are getting the money from the people they sell the houses to. That money is going to Essex, and they're just going, oh, lovely jubbly, interest, lots of interest being generated. And if anyone's been Brentwood lately, right by the division of the deputy leader of the county council, the high street has been completely resurfaced and there was nothing wrong with it. And I asked the question of them, how much did that cost? £150,000. Yet the main road into Basildon and Nethermain, where we've got the ambulance, our hospital, the top cardiovascular centre, it's constantly reporting potholes. What is more important? Keeping people alive, keeping people healthy, by making sure ambulances can go up and down that road, or Brentwood High Street, and there was nothing wrong with it. That's how they treat this borough. And hopefully in 20 months' time, the first sale signs go outside County Hall, and for all I care, they could turn it into a knocking shop because it wouldn't bother Basildon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph.
Mr. Mayor, I want to start with something very simple. Where is the infrastructure? Because that's not just a question, it's a frustration. And it's the one I hear again and again from residents. Not in meetings, not in reports, but in real conversations, on doorsteps, in passing, everyday life. People are not coming to us with this theory. They are coming to us with lived experience. They are telling us they can't get a GP appointment when they need one. They're worried about whether their child will get into the right school. They're driving on roads that are getting worse, not better. They are trying to get from A to B and the transport just isn't working for them. And at the same time, they are seeing new homes being built. They are seeing growth, but what they are not seeing is the support that should come with it. So when they ask, where is the infrastructure? They are not being unreasonable. They are asking for balance. They are asking for fairness. Now here's where this becomes impossible to ignore. 160 million unspent developer contributions currently sitting with Essex County Council. 169 million, sorry. And let's be honest with ourselves, that's not a small gap. That's not a delay you can quietly explain away. That is a significant amount of money that was meant to make a difference. And it hasn't, not in the way people can feel. Because this isn't about a number on a page. This is about people. It's about a parent refreshing the GP app over and over again, hoping to get an appointment. It's about a child travelling further than they should just to get to school. It's about families adjusting their lives around systems that are already stretched. And when this is happening, while money meant to support those very pressures is sitting unspent, people notice, and more importantly, they feel it. There's a quote by Mayor Angelou, a writer and a civil rights activist, who said, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And right now, too many residents feel overlooked. They feel like things are happening around them, but not improving life for them. Now, I want to be very clear. This is not about being against development. No, we need homes. We want our young people to have a future here. We want families to grow and stay in this borough. But growth must come with responsibility, because when development moves forward and infrastructure doesn't follow, it doesn't feel like progress, it feels like pressure. And pressure builds quietly at first, then steadily, and eventually it becomes frustration. And when frustration is not addressed, it becomes something deeper. It becomes a loss of trust. So when we talk about 169 million, this is not just a figure. This is classrooms that could exist, roads that could be safer, services that could be stronger, transports that could actually meet people's needs. This is what fairness looks like in practice. And this is where I want to be very clear. Fairness is not about what is promised. Fairness is about what people actually experience. Because people don't live in reports. They don't live in projections. They live in the outcome of the decisions that we make as a council. And if funding has been secured, then they should see it. They should feel it. And they should also benefit from it. Not eventually, not years later, but when they need it. Because infrastructure delivered too late doesn't feel like support. It feels like we're trying to catch up with problems that were already visible. And we should not always be playing catch up. So this is not about blame, but it's about responsibility. Because if the money is there, then the delivery must follow. And our residents should not have to keep asking the same questions over and over again without seeing a different answer. Because in the end, this is not just about 169 million. It's about whether people feel like the system is working for them or whether they feel left to carry the weight of growth on their own. And Mr. Mayor, that is not the position that we should accept as a council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Headley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't take up too much time because the Conservative leader covered off the point about distraction. But Councillor Smith, as a county councillor, should know 106 money can't be spent on potholes anyway. Several of you mentioned potholes. The other point that I would make is there is no ability for the money that county hold to earn interest. That was also mentioned. They can't. And if they did, it would have to go back to the developer if the scheme didn't go forward. Now, as you will know from my declaration of interest, for my sins I chair audit and standards at county, there is a Labour member whose seat is always empty on that committee. And we grilled officers that deal with 106 agreements for 2 hours 2 or 3 months ago. The Labour councillor would have had an opportunity to ask questions of those officers who work diligently with the planning officers here to develop those schemes. The fact that Labour failed to take up their position on that committee needs answering. Thank you.
Councillor Journay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Oh, brilliant. So, firstly, I just want to say thank you to all the councillors retiring and departing, and to Basildon Labour. Thank you for warming the seats for a Reform UK-led administration come May. If this £50 million of alleged unspent monies for Basildon is true, well, it's very hard to tell since this administration has been economic with the truth for many years. Waitrose in Wickford, as an example. If that money is genuinely available, We will build the schools, health hubs and use that money to improve local infrastructure under a Reform UK County Council. I can also proudly announce that under a Reform UK Essex County Council, we will also be filling every single pothole. In just 9 short months, yes, they can laugh, but it's true, in 9 short months, Reform UK has fixed 117,000 potholes across the country in our county councils. And if Councillor Emma Callaghan thinks Reform UK is going to curtail LGR, here is some breaking news for her and the rest of the chamber. Reform UK will deliver LGR in line with statutory requirements. And as I've been saying for a long time, Mr. Mayor, it's time for change. It is time for Reform UK. Thank you.
Councillor Brockman. And then Councillor Callaghan once Councillor Brockman's finished.
Right, so I was quite pleased about this when I heard the leader speaking about all this. I thought, oh yeah, he's got a point. He's really got a point. And then he turned it into a party political broadcast. Bless your heart, you did. Then Andy Barnes gets up and he does the same. Then Kerry gets up and he does the same. And Sam's just got up and come out with the biggest load of whatever not many of us have ever heard. Bless your heart. So, I'm just formally declaring here, I'm not voting on this, because I can't vote for it. All right, I would have done earlier on, but I'm not. I can't vote at all. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Callaghan, you have 5 minutes to wind up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try and cover this and start in reverse order. Listen, that was a bit of a roller coaster in 30 seconds for Councillor Brockman, because I started out not liking what she said, then I really liked what she said, and then I finished thinking, well, the people of Wickford are going to be sorely disappointed that you don't want to vote to get 50 million quid back into our borough for infrastructure, but that's on you, having voted with the Tories' alternative budget at the last meeting, deciding tonight that you're not going to fight for infrastructure money for Basildon. Councillor Headley made a couple of points which I think are interesting. The first is that clearly he doesn't understand, after all these years on the County Council, that part of the 106 monies is around spending on the public realm. And when the public realm is around road improvements, you can use that money for filling the potholes. He said that if the interest is accumulated and the development doesn't go ahead, it goes back to the developer. So I will be asking a very interesting follow-up question as to how much money Essex County Council have been paying back to developers over and above the money that should have been spent on infrastructure. So thank you for that little nugget. Councillor Joseph is right to say that residents should see it and feel it, and to ask, where is it? I mean, we've seen where's Wally tonight, but we need to see where this infrastructure is as well. Councillor Smith, again, the interest point. I'm sure he's already sending emails off to Essex County Council to find out where that interest is. I thought Councillor McGurran's point, again, very interesting point around why we don't have a Conservative group here in our borough that go into bat for Basildon and go and fight at County Hall for a better deal for us. They shake their heads, they've never done it, they won't do it, and they'll be out of office, I'm sure, in 7 weeks' time at County Hall. But just compare and contrast it, right? Because here in Basildon, in the last 2 years, we've gone into bat, I've gone into bat for Basildon, and I came out with £40 million in pride in place funds for Basildon. They roll their eyes at £40 million, right? And they can't bring themselves tonight to go into bat for the £50 million of infrastructure money that we should get, that we're after. Councillor Emma Callaghan was right to talk about the two-tier system and the issues there. And also, I think, again, I'll be in the Daily Mail over this, I'm sure, because they got this wrong last year as well when they went for me. Schools in our borough, particularly north of the 127, are full because people from south of the 127 are travelling north every single day to send their kids to those schools. And that is because we haven't been building the schools south of the 127 that the infrastructure money is there to do. Whether it was Gloucester Park and the development there, where the Tories built all over Gloucester Park, whether it was over at the School Avenue estate in Langdon, whether it was the Redrow estate behind the hospital. This side of the A127 has not had its fair share of education contributions, and that is why those children are in schools north of the 127, and that is a critical point because so many car movements happen before 9 o'clock in the morning and after 3:30 of an evening, with people travelling unnecessarily around this borough. Councillor McGeorge was right to talk about how health infrastructure is being overlooked, and I have to say here, I have sympathy particularly for Note Bridge colleagues because of the issues there when we're talking about more infrastructure there. Their GP surgery is underperforming and it is under huge pressure. And what I hope is that the applications that have gone through now in and around Note Bridge, that the NHS utilises the money that the developers will pay in order to improve those GP surgeries there. Councillor Genet, I tell you what, this is gold dust, this. Reform UK are going to fill every single pothole in Essex, apparently, right? Okay, they haven't got the money to do that, and they're not going to have the money for the next 10 years in the budget to do that, but that's a commitment tonight that they are going to fill every single pothole. Clearly, mathematics is not... Yeah, 169 million. I'm going to get to the 169 million from Councillor Barnes' contribution in a moment as well. But let's just understand, Essex County Council, it's actually cheaper for them to pay out in claims than it is to actually go and fix the roads because of how bad the roads are in Essex. And if you have left them to rot like they have for the last 25 years, the bill goes up and up and up. But again, as Councillor McGovern pointed out, this idea that with 14 seats up for election and only 12 games, I think it's 12 games, because I'm not entirely sure if Councillor Shields is still a reformed councillor tonight. There he is, he's all by himself over on those benches, because I think he can't even keep a group of two together. But there we go. And here we have a situation where he's trying to claim that he can win 22 seats at the election in May when only 12 are available for him. We all know this is just going to be a case of propping up Councillor Barnes and the Tories to come back into Basildon. And listen, Mr Mayor, finally on Councillor Barnes' contribution. He says no one believes a word we are saying about infrastructure, but I have to say, I see the Taylors are in the back there. I hope that they're doing well. They must be livid because they turn up every Wednesday night at these planning meetings and they make their speeches about the infrastructure and about the fact that there is no infrastructure, and then the planning members tonight don't even bother standing up to make the case for the infrastructure. 169. 169.
Thank you. We don't have a conversation here. Councillor Callaghan. Councillor Callaghan, could you round up, please, with the motion? I don't want a debate across the chamber. Excuse me. No, she's not good.
Councillor, she is making great points, Mr Mayor. I am in full agreement. I did. That is true.
Thank you. When the Mayor stands, everyone else sits. Thank you. Now I will have control of this meeting. Carry on in a respectful manner. Your time is up, Councillor Callaghan. I will give you 20 seconds to wind up. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, the final point I was going to make on Councillor Barnes' contribution is that he says the £169 million, in his words, is allocated to be spent. Nobody is disputing that. Everybody on this side of the chamber, everyone in the county of Essex understands that every penny of a Section 106 agreement is allocated to be spent on a certain thing. The issue is, it hasn't been spent. That £169 million needs to leave Essex County Council and it needs to come back to Basildon to build our schools, to build our GP surgeries, to build our roads, to build our libraries, and give the public here in Basildon the infrastructure that they need.
Now be put to the vote. All those in favour of the motion, please show. All those against? Are there any abstentions? Oh, you're refusing to vote. Yeah, that's separately. So there's a refusal to vote on that one. Okay, thank you. That motion has been carried. I will begin the full council in 5 minutes' time.